Hello, and welcome to the Upland Forum, where we elevate the voices of leaders making a real impact in our city. Tonight's guest is someone very special whom basically has served in two different uniforms, one in service to our country and one in service to our youth. Today, I am honored to welcome John Lewis, a proud United States Marine Corps veteran and the creative director of Ovation Performing Arts. From the battlefield to the backstage, John has taken the core values of the Corps, discipline, courage, and leadership, and apply them to the world of youth theater. Through over 40 productions, he's helped students step into the spotlight and discover their confidence, their creativity, and their voice. There is more than a story about performing arts. It's a story about purpose, growth, and legacy. So what do you say I bring up our special guest, John Lewis? How are you, John?
I'm great. How are you, Carlos?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey, first of all, thank you for doing this. And I also want to start by saying thank you very much for your great sacrifice and service to our country.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on board today. And I want to make sure that folks get to listen to who you are as a person, an individual, as a veteran. So what do you say we get started, John?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so let's start way at the beginning, right? Can you tell us about your time in the Marines and how that experience shaped who you are today?
Absolutely. So I had a theater scholarship to college, Cal Baptist University in Riverside in 1968. I'm studying theater. I had a scholarship there, and I did a lot of practical jokes, which, I thought as a theater major that would be okay, but they didn't see it that way, and so I got kicked out my first semester. And my dad happened to be on the board.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, that didn't go over well. But that made me eligible for the draft. I come from a long line of Marines. My dad was a Marine, and 3 of his brothers were Marines. So I joined the Marines. Went to boot camp in San Diego. And when I ended up in Vietnam, I was in G2 intelligence there, but I went out on a lot of patrols and recon patrols and things. I would go into the villages sometimes after they were overrun by the Viet Cong, and we would do pacification with the villagers and provide aid to them that were just overrun. The thing that affected me the most were the kids. Anything that was painful to children was painful to me. I came home from Vietnam and I went back to college and then studied, became a child psychologist with special needs children. I wrote 2 plays about it, which ran in Hollywood for several years. One was called Nathan, about a family with a boy with cerebral palsy, and the other was called Of Shadows Lost. That came from my philosophy of teaching kids, like Peter Pan, that rather than learning to walk, learn to fly. And so I would work with the kids and teach them about believing in themselves and believing that they could reach for the stars and no handicap could hold them back. I ended up many years later going back to Vietnam 4 different times on humanitarian mission trips, going into the villages and just healing for myself, doing something positive for the kids. And so that's, and then, once a Marine, always a Marine. So 50 years ago sounds like a long time ago, but once you're a Marine, you're a Marine.
So tell me, what was that transition like, going from like the military to the world of like performing arts? And I know that you also had some great things that you've shared with me about just the type of therapy also that you now have put into place as well.
Right. Well, first of all, the transition, it was difficult, the transition coming out of the war and kind of the treatment coming back. And you know, it helped a lot when you're working with special needs kids and adults that it's healing because you are now changing lives and affecting lives for the positive. Um, and so what I did is I took my time as an actor, which was my first love. And even in Vietnam, I found some other actors and we went to some of the orphanages and did sketches and skits and things for the kids in the orphanages in Vietnam. So when I came back, I started working with developmentally disabled kids and adults using drama, both for a diagnostic tool because you watch how they work in drama when you give them a scene to act out, and then also for therapy because they work through issues and things. Um, and then, like I said, I wrote 2 plays about it and my experience working with them. And then um, I went from that, and then my love of theater continued. So when those plays ran in Hollywood, I ended up being asked to direct Grease in Hollywood with Fran Drescher, who was was the nanny, and now
Right.
she's back, and she produced it and I directed it, and that was a lot of fun. And then from that point, I just stayed in the business, writing, directing, producing.
So as you transition from military service to this whole world of performing arts, what drew you to Ovation Performing Arts? Like, how did you come to take on the role of creative director?
Okay, so um, everyone in my family was in the arts. My wife was assistant to the executive producer on Days of Our Lives for 20 years. My 4 kids were actors, child actors. I have 10 grandkids, and most of them were actors at one time. Um, what's going on in the business is very difficult with kids in the industry. What they're exposed to. We hear the horror stories of kids that get on drugs and alcohol because they're treated like adults, and so they do what the adults do. And um, so we started Ovation as a way of teaching life skills through the arts and teach the kids who want to go into that industry that there's more to it than just being rich and famous. Use your gifts to give back. So we started it with 2 other partners, Becky Broyles, who was my daughter's roommate in college. My daughter got her degree in theater, and Becky got hers in vocal performance. And I had cast her in 2 plays, Music Man and Joseph Mason Technicolor Dreamcoat. So we started this to when parents were asking us, how do I get my kids in the business? At first we said, don't. And that didn't work because they did anyway. And so we started it, and that just became everything because we realized then what we were doing um, for the future of the world, and we're equipping kids with life skills to go out into the world and be the best they can be with their self-confidence, ability to speak in public, belief in themselves. And we've 20 years later now, we see the results of that, which is what legacy is about.
Um, I've gotten to know you guys in the last few months. I've
Mhm.
experienced firsthand and seen firsthand some of the phenomenal work that you do. I mean, you've directed over 40 plus production, man. What's your drive, your passion that keeps you going show after show?
Well, first of all, as a writer, that's my creative side. I wrote Annabelle's Wish, the animated feature with Randy Travis and Rue McClanahan and Jerry Van Dyke and lots of others, and Dolly Parton did the soundtrack. Um, and then lots of plays, screenplays. Creativity is my passion as an actor, writer, director. Um, but there's something about that satisfaction of watching the kids beaming when the audience applauds and giving them that experience. Um, when you watch it, that becomes your Emmy or your Oscar or your Grammy. watching the success of those kids. And so that passion goes on to the next, to the next, to the next. And um, then we have kids that were 3 years old. One of them right now, he was 3 years old when we started with this, and now he has his own theater company,
Wow,
and we're helping him build the set for his next show in our parking lot tomorrow.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so you watch that progression, and then we're going to go watch his show. Um, so that's the satisfaction that keeps your passion going.
So that was going to lead me to my next questions. This is a great example, but I also want you to take a moment, think about where you saw a student break through on stage on their personal growth, and it reminded you exactly why you do what you do for kids.
Okay. There's one example that we'll hear about at our gala, because the one of the parents will be there speaking about what happened with his daughter. He brought his daughter to us when she was 12 years old because she was shy. She couldn't speak in public and didn't have a lot of friends. So she wasn't a great singer, and she wasn't a great dancer. But when she got into the acting and the improv, and she felt safe because she could become anyone she wanted as a character, and then that started to develop. So then when it came to voice recitals, she would just stand up and sing no matter what it sounded like, with, all of this self-assurance. And she started writing funny songs and started acting and performing. She went all the way up through, graduated, ended up going to college on a full ride scholarship,
Wow.
and ended up getting her PhD from Columbia University, and now works in nuclear medicine. And she said that she
Wow.
went through 80 interviews for that position, and her acting skills that she did with improv is what gave her the ability to succeed. Her dad now is coming back to be our MC at our gala, our legacy,
Nice.
um, because it meant so much to his daughter. And we have so many stories like that.
And I want you. We're going to talk about the gala here in a little bit, because
Okay.
I want folks to get to know who John Lewis is, right?
Okay.
And as we're talking about these special moments with kids, like over
Okay.
your career, even now in Ovation, um, share with us, man, like a moment where your students, you, the whole production company lost it in a funny moment. Because there's a lot
Oh.
of those, right?
Oh
And it
yeah.
was kind of hard to reel. So think of something maybe even recent that just happened, that it's just one of those things that's like, okay, everybody take a break because you can't stop laughing, or something like
well,
that.
I mean, obviously there's always those, and the backstage things that happen, and then also on stage. But where it happens is every day, our class, with our improvs in our classes, in the acting class, there are times where we just can't even get through the class because the students are just laughing at what just happened. And it's just, that's what keeps me young. And laughing with kids, and letting them know that it's okay to laugh and
Yeah.
have fun. We create scenarios that they act out in improvisation, which are life scenarios, and they are so creative. It is just unbelievable to watch them. And I feel like the luckiest person in the world to be able to watch and be part of that with them. Um, as far as something that was an individual moment on stage, um, the one that stands out the most to me, I don't think I can say.
It'll be off camera. We'll have to talk about that one for sure.
Yeah, it will. It will. Yeah. But it actually happened in a show in Hollywood, and my kids were very young then, and they were on the front row, and I was on stage, and of course, one of my youngest, actually my youngest, on the front row, um, passed gas. That's all I'll say. Loud enough to where the whole audience heard it, the entire cast heard it,
Oh,
and
wow.
the cast could not stop laughing on stage. And this was the theater in Hollywood, um, and that son, the youngest, he ended up getting his master's degree in directing, and he's a professor of directing at Cal State Fullerton now. And last year won the Kennedy Center Award for Best Director in the Nation in DC.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome. Congrats.
but anyway, yeah. So we like to tease him about that moment when I was on stage.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So let me switch gears a little bit here. So there's a lot of parents who are going to be seeing this show. There's a lot of parents who are already supporting your innovation, supporting the
Mhm.
school, everything that you guys are doing. But for those parents who may be unsure about theater as a growth tool, what would you say to them?
Um, right now, more than ever, what kids are going through in school, especially high school kids, with anxiety like never before, and autism. We have so many autistic students in our school that before they're 18, they're integrated into our regular day program, and then after 18, they're in our adult developmental disability program called Ovation Plus. We have about 35 in that group, and um, when they have a safe place to come to where it doesn't matter what their quote disability is, whether it's just afraid to speak or all of those labels that we give them, like ADD, ADHD,
Right,
autism, um, that they don't have those labels here. And they're allowed to take risks and grow. There's no such thing as a mistake, it's just a learning experience.
right,
And when they're on stage or singing or dancing, it doesn't matter if they went left when they should have gone right. Um, they when they're finished, the entire audience applauds for them. It's just a safe place for character building. I think the usually when someone asks me that question, I defer to a parent to tell their experience of
right.
watching their
Firsthand.
kids. Yeah, and watch what it meant to raise their kids here at the school. Um, so many of our students have grown up at the school. Many of them have gone on to get their degrees and come back and teach with us. So um, the families have known each other for 20 years.
That's great. I want to transition because we're getting closer to the end of the show. But
Okay.
what's next for Ovation, right? What exciting event is coming up for Ovation, and I would love for you to talk about.
Yes. Okay. So it's the gala, and it's going to be at the DoubleTree Hilton in Claremont. Andrew Banky with Claremont with DoubleTree is gifting and donating the entire event to Ovation. So every dollar that's brought in at the event goes to help Ovation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. You've heard me say this before, but about 10% comes from tuition of our income. About 10% comes from grants, about 10% from donations, and 70% faith. So we never know how we're going to keep the doors open, but it always happens in 21 years. Our gala, um, all of our students are going to perform, and our special needs adults will perform. Every age group will perform. And then our guest speaker is Mark Marshall, who was Steven Spielberg's assistant for 12 years. He worked with George Lucas on Star Wars. He produced the Free Willy movies, all three. He was the post-production supervisor on Harry Potter, and on and on and on. And he wrote a book called Goonies, Droids, and Killer Whales. And I've
I was
known Mark.
hoping you brought up Goonies because that's like what triggered me when you said about Kino.
I know,
It's like, oh
good,
yeah,
yeah.
all right.
And Mark is actually on his way up to Astoria, where Goonies was shot, for the 40th anniversary with the entire cast. And Mark is the keynote speaker there as well. And he's stopping to do our gala on his way up.
Nice.
And he's donating a lot to our silent auction from Goonies, some really special things. But I've known Mark for 40 years. He worked with my kids in the industry and kept them safe. And he worked with all of Steven Spielberg's child actors, keeping them safe. And he's going to be speaking at our gala.
Yeah, and I actually, folks, if you're watching, I also just put on there the website where you can get your tickets. I know tickets are going fast, so you guys need to make sure that you support Ovation School of Music, you have to come out and watch the performance, because one thing is for us to talk about it here. Another
Mhm.
thing is, and I'm telling you this from firsthand experience, is to actually sit in the audience and watch the performance from beginning to end. I guarantee you there won't be a time for you to even take a breath because you don't want to miss anything, or a restroom break for that matter, because you don't want to miss anything. I
Yeah,
mean, it's pretty
and
awesome.
we will provide tissue, but you might want to bring your own. There
That's true.
in all these years, there's not a time goes by that these kids don't make me cry. Um,
Yeah.
they're just beautiful kids, and their respect for each other and the way they work together and help each other is just overwhelming emotionally sometimes. Yeah.
John, I'm going to leave you with one final question, and that's going to
Okay.
be is, when people look back at your work, right? What do you hope they remember most about you and your leadership?
Wow. When we say changing the world one child at a time, we know that we may never see the actual results. Every once in a while, we do. A student will come back. We have a student that we haven't seen in 16 years who just called us. She's getting her master's in psychology, and she wants to use Ovation for her thesis. And she was 6 years old when she was in our school, but she said it meant that much to her in her life that she'll be actually be speaking at the gala. And sometimes we do, but I think it's more about the world changing and what they do to give back to the world, even if we never find out. Even if when we say remembered by, I want the kids to be remembered.
No, that's a very impactful way of putting that. What an incredible conversation, man. Thank you, John, for sharing your story, your service, and your mission from the U.S. Marine Corps to creative stages of Ovation Performing Arts. You've shown us that leadership doesn't end when the uniform comes off; it simply evolves, right? So,
Right.
um,
Absolutely.
you're not just directing shows; you're building young leaders, instilling confidence, and reminding all of us that the stage can be one of the greatest classrooms in life. And I
Mhm.
also want to thank all of you guys watching us, joining us today, and listening. If you're looking for a space where your child can grow, lead, and shine, look no further than Ovation. And if you haven't had a chance to stop by the Ovation School, please do so. I mean, just the offices alone are just amazing. We're not even talking about the back where you have everything else that happens, but it's just some
Yes.
cool stuff that I
Yeah.
think you collected over the years. So I want to thank you all for tuning in today at the Upland Forum. Until next time, stay committed, stay inspired, and keep lifting your community forward. Thank you again, John. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to the gala as well too.
Thank you, Carlos.